Let's take a look at one of the classes that has been used at State 4-H Roundup, and it is for compact fluorescent bulbs. We have the judging table set up. The only thing that's missing from this is that we probably would have 3 other situation statements placed here, but to save space and time, I've just illustrated it this way. We've set this up in such a manner that actually the price appears on the number. There is value in having a loose card available on, or to use as marking the particular number of the item. That way it's easy to move, and in some cases products may be so small that there isn't a good place to put a label. So suit yourselves, just make a decision that'll make it always easy for young people to quickly, in a very limited period of time, to learn what it's about and see which one is going to fit the situation statement. There's a very good source of situation statements already developed for a number of classes that can be used as practice. If you'll go to consumerdecisionmaking.tamu.edu, on the far right-hand side, go to the little section that talks about previous contests, and not only will you find the situation statement, you'll find what the placing was, and then something that we'll talk about, the all-important cuts. In other words, how differently was the top item from the bottom item, and how did this line up with regard to those kinds of differences. So here's an example of this situation statement. When Isabella's mom learned that electric lighting can consume as much as 25% of the average home energy budget, she looked for ways to decrease the monthly bill. Isabella discovered that fluorescent bulbs were much more energy efficient and wants to start replacing her 60 to 100 watt incandescent bulbs, beginning with the living and dining room lamps where they need soft white light. Which of the fluorescent bulbs would be most cost-effective and energy efficient in meeting mom's needs? So again, a mom is directing a 4-H'er to help guide the family decision-making process. She figures that, well, this young person, this 4-H'er has learned about it, has studied, and can really help us out. So in this case, these particular items would have to be examined very quickly. The situation statement gives key elements. They're looking for soft white lighting. They're looking for something that would replace the 60 to 100 watt incandescent bulbs. What we don't know is how many they actually need. So that would be the clue that looking at how much each bulb would cost might be the best way to make the comparison. Or assuming that there would be more than one lamp to replace this for, looking at ways of buying things in multiples. Comparing the prices, is a $1 bulb for $3, is that a better deal than 4 for $3.99 on sale? So a little bit of math is involved on the part of young people who are making the decision. Well, what you can use then is also an individual scorecard for 4-H'ers to write their placing. Suppose it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and they rank order it that way. It's important that their name appear on that scorecard. Otherwise, tabulators will not know who has done that particular placing. Another method that we have used, we use both Scantrons at State 4-H Roundup, have been using those the last few years. But prior to that time, we prepared an entire scorecard for the individual student to handwrite their placing in each of the 8 classes that were judged at State Roundup. This was fully labeled with the name of the individual so that we would not lose track. The downside of using this is that unless the individual 4-H'er is kind of keeping this a secret item, others could copy their scores. We would hope that all 4-H'ers would act ethically and that that would not happen. Then these placings are given to the tabulators who begin to work with those scores based on what we'll talk about in the next segment on how to actually assign a score to the various placings. Another important thing happens, and that is that at least at State Roundup we do this. You may not always be having this at county contests, particularly with the very youngest children, but 2 classes are selected for individuals to give oral reasons. And the reason for that is to be able to develop the skill in determining why they placed one particular item over the others. And when they argue their oral reasons before a judge, that's an important way for them to really make sure that they have understood not only the content of the study guide, but that they've made a rational choice with regard to whatever that situation statement has spelled out. And it doesn't matter if they didn't get the quote-unquote correct placing. We've seen it happen many times when a 4-H'er is able to rationally defend the placing that they have made on a particular class. And this means that they've garnered a fairly high score from the judges. So we do provide them at that time. They know which ones are going to be having oral reasons. We don't tell them until the contest begins, but it means that they can take special notes about that particular item, and when they go into their study phase, then they'll be prepared to have the oral reasons given. Now, the study guide does, I should say, the contest guide does give a copy of the score sheet that is used for oral reasons, and those need to be duplicated. We of course color code ours so that they know very easily that they're going to be giving 2 different oral reasons, and because there are 2 judges hearing them and each judge scores independently, they actually receive 2 copies, one to give to each judge. Now it is important that their names appear there so that we can able to connect all of the placings and scores together and tie them back to the same 4-H'er. So there is a little bit of very careful bookkeeping that needs to be done, or I should say record keeping of numbers, so that we can tie it back to the individual participant. So that's it. Here's a class. It happens to be on compact fluorescent bulbs, something that when we started to do this was not so commonly discussed in society, but today this is becoming the way in which people are beginning to respond to lower energy utilization in their homes, and then therefore lower costs. So it's a good activity for young people, and it supports some of the other ongoing extension efforts that we have as well.